Welcome, welcome. Season 2, expansion, episode 4. Today, we're going to talk about family.
Familia.
Yes.
And why, as we expand our family. And we've talked about this as as I expand, right? Like, so much happens with not only pregnancy, but then another child. And now we've gone through this 2 times before, and our dynamics have changed every time.
Agreed.
Right? So how do we do it? How do we do it all? And it's a lot to talk about in terms of expansion, consciousness, law of attraction. Like, what are we doing? First of all, I think it's important to talk about wanting children in our lives.
Of course.
Like, wanting that as a part of our life. That's something that we attracted. We know we both wanted. Takes me back to how I got pregnant the first time. Do you want to tell that story? I think it's a fun story.
If you want to tell it, you can tell it.
You don't want to tell it?
You can tell it.
Okay. So we're in St. Lucia. First of all, I think it was a trap. I was like 26. Like, we started dating like a year before. We were into dating. But like, it was like, okay, we're going on this vacation. I'm taking on this vacation to St. Lucia. I'm like, woo, okay, let's go. And we get to St. Lucia, and it is this little villa, like a private villa with these high fences, a private pool, a trap. And we walk into the villa, and it's like this bed with the curtain, you know, the white curtain. Everyone knows the white, like the white veil. And then there's petals on the bed.
Okay. First of all,
there's petals. There's like rose petals leading up to the bed.
These were not extras. I did not pay extra.
But
when you leave the United States and you go somewhere else, they treat you a little different.
This is the way, yeah. They put rose petals on our bed. Anyway, so like we're, you know, like, first of all, St. Lucia, I don't know if you know about St. Lucia, but it has 2 huge mountains. It's so beautiful. Highly recommend. It's not really like a place to go to the beach in most places, like where we went, where you can like go swimming in the beach, but there were beach areas. It's more to like really explore, like climb mountains. We climbed the mountains. It was really incredible. But anyway, so like we're at this little private villa, and then we go to like the spot, right? In our like resort, there's a spot where everything happens. And the bartender is like, Chris is like, what you got for me? And the bartender takes this concoction out of the
so he pulls this glass jar that has cinnamon sticks,
leaves,
and all types
twigs,
of herbs.
It's brown.
It's brown.
Chris is like, what is in that?
And I'm like, what is this? And he says,
it's the baby maker.
This is the baby maker.
It's like a true story. Like, he literally.
And I'm like, bro.
Chris is like, give me 2 shots.
I'm like, whatever. You know, like, I'm Chris, and
nothing can take me down.
I can control myself. So he's like, this is the baby maker. So I take 2 shots.
Give me 2 shots. So it was a setup.
It was a setup.
So anyways, my 26th birthday. Was it my 25th birthday? My 26th birthday.
I don't know.
I got pregnant that night. So then a child came into this world. So when we had our first kid, we weren't really prepared. I don't even think I lived with you. I think I like lived with you, but I did not officially live with you. And so it was like a whole change of our lives.
You had all your stuff in the bathroom.
But if you were to go into manifesting in law of attraction, would you admit that you wanted a baby? You wanted a son.
Yes.
You're in the hot seat. Ooh.
So
yeah, he admitted it.
I fully wanted a son. I fully wanted a son. That is correct.
That looked like me.
It was actually one of the first times in my life where I had to let go, because
Oh, you let go.
I did.
That's how babies are made.
I did. That's one of the first times in my life when I really realized, like, I did not control that whole situation, from the bartender to
the rose
petals in the bedroom to the outcome.
Right.
Like, I didn't.
And it was like literally, it's like, you know, they say it takes 1 shot to get pregnant. It was like that was it. And so we had a baby. Like, we decided, you know, we had the talk, like, this is happening. And for the first time in your life, you realize your life was about to change.
Yes.
Immensely. Because who do you live for before you have kids?
Yourself.
You literally live for no one but yourself. Everything that you do is about you. And this is something that I think both Chris and I took seriously because we were survivors. We lived in survival mode. And so especially when you live in survival mode, everything is kind of about you all the time, more than any other type of like personality, right? So I think we both took having a kid very seriously. It was like not light. It wasn't like, oh, baby, and we could just do what we want. The baby was like, okay, this is going to change our lives because obviously our lives are going to be revolved around this child.
But I also want to point in, the real truth is that at first I was like, oh my God, like what's going to happen?
Yeah, he
with my
wasn't
life?
really excited. It wasn't like, woo.
So
it was very.
If you give me a second, what I was trying to say was that it was a period in my life where that's when I said I really had to let go because it was like the universe was doing something for me that I couldn't even understand or in a moment accept. And so when I finally accepted that, wow, I'm going to be a father, it was one of the most absolute biggest blessings ever in my life. But really why I share that part, because I could have skipped over it, is that sometimes there's things that shake up our life and it shakes up the control that we think we do have, which we really don't. But it shakes that control up and we can choose to either go with it or not go with it. And that was something that I would have never planned on my own, but something greater than me made that happen in my life.
He was also afraid of sharing me.
Sharing.
Not having me all to yourself. Like when a child comes into the world, yeah, you're like...
That is not...
It's not true?
No.
You don't think that? Like, oh, he's going to take up all my time.
For a moment, I might have thought like, man,
Sammy,
I can't just get up and I just can't.
Hour-long massages every week are not going to happen.
I can't get up and just leave and fly away.
Right.
I think that was what it was. Like all of a sudden, like I do have to take care of someone else.
But did you hear that limitation? So even as we talk about this, we want to stay like in that aware zone, right? So that's the really cool thing about like consciously being. In that moment where he just said, I'm having a kid, I can't just get up and fly away. We put these thoughts in our own head.
Of course.
What makes us have a child and still not be able to get up and fly away with the child?
Because we put that limitation on.
We put the limitation on. It's still a very, very real possibility that you have a baby a few weeks later, maybe some months, you can still travel with a baby. We've done it and it's fun. Yeah. But we have this concept that like, oh my God, once you have children, you are locked down. There's no more freedom. There's no more fun. And as much as your life does shift and there's a new being there, it does not have to make your life harder. In fact, everything's multiplied. The love, the feelings, the joy, the annoyance.
Yeah, there's a lot of
everything is multiplied. But like, you also don't have to limit yourself with children. And I think that's important to talk about today. So I wanted to share like how we became parents because I feel like our subconscious, I've always wanted to be a mother. I've always wanted to have lots of kids. and 25 is a pretty good age to start. Like if I want multiple kids, you can't really start in your 30s, like, or later, or else you're kind of pushing some, no offense to anyone who have babies in their 30s and lots of them. For me, I feel like physically and mentally, I just needed to be a little younger. Not that I was actively trying to have a baby, but it happened. And if it was in my subconscious and if it did happen in reality, it's something that existed, right? So Kobe, our son, biggest blessing ever, my little angel. And then we got married like a year later, a year and a half. Kobe was almost 2 in COVID. Yeah. So we had a COVID wedding. Didn't know I was pregnant at the wedding.
Didn't know.
Did not know I was pregnant at the wedding. And then we had another baby girl. And now
Kaya.
Here's a third. Kaya, the joy of my life. Little sassy queen. But as we have each kid, and even like during my pregnancy now, so many things shift. Like it does shift. I had this hard rule of my kids never sleeping in my bed. Like it was like, all right, sleep training, put the kids in their crib. It worked really beautifully with Kobe. And then with Kaya, she just wasn't playing that game. And now both of our kids are in our bed. And it's also really weird because like I was so like hard, like you're not sleeping. And then I realized how much children love that cuddling time, how much they love that connection. And then I thought back to my childhood and how I never wanted to sleep alone, how I always wanted someone there with me. And I had to change my whole belief system of where I thought children belong. Like they belong in their bed and not interrupting my sleep. And I'm like, how wrong am I to even have that thought? Because as much as I love to hug somebody at night and snuggle, why would my infant, my toddler, not want to feel safe and warm next to a body too? So it's been like a really fascinating shift even within this past year of like having our children in our bed. I mean, we have a bed on the floor where we throw them sometimes, but it's been really fascinating watching myself evolve in that way and accepting a big change like that, like having our children in our bed.
Yeah, well, we didn't have our kids in our bed for a long time. It's only been like the last 90, no. It's been like the last 90 to 120 days after they got sick. And then they've been consistently.
Then they never left.
Kobe would always sleep in his bed and then
come in
at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m.
Ever since we moved.
But the last 120 days has been more.
They're going to sleep with me in the bed.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, it's kind of nice to be there and fall asleep.
So there's benefits for them and you.
Right. And you don't realize that. This is like one of those things that are unknown. Like once you make a hard rule about your life and saying, I'm not doing something, even if you think you're really right, like I can argue sleep training. There's arguments about it. Like you need your sleep. You're healthier if you sleep more. Kids interrupt your sleep. There's all these arguments as to why it's better for kids to sleep on their own, self-soothing. They learn how to navigate their emotions. But like when you look on the other side, if you're willing to look and willing to enter there and go there, it's truly fascinating to be on the complete different side and experience it and be like, oh, I get it now. Like that's expansion. Expanding your perspective by stepping into a different one. Sometimes you're forced there. Like you said, our kids got sick and they just never left our bed. And I will say there is so much more room in my heart, right? Like you're more open. Like, okay, I may not get like the 8 solid hours of sleep that I was getting before, but there's some, like, I don't necessarily believe that sleep is the form of energy. There are so many other forms of energy, and usually it's your purpose, your sole purpose, what wakes you up, right? Like what wakes you up, what drives you. You could be doing something, if you're trying to go to work every day and you hate your job, you're not gonna have energy. If you are working on your passion and you are building the business of your dreams, you can stay up till 4 a.m., wake up at 7 a.m. and keep going. Why is that? Purpose. And so I feel like our children have given us so much more purpose, so much more love. Not saying that this can't happen without children. It's just like our dynamic with the children in our lives as we expand, our purpose expands with that, like leaving imprints on human beings.
I actually think that our kids are part of our purpose. And what I mean by that is I feel like our kids have been extremely healing for me. With Kobe in particular, it was like having an opportunity to be a father and kind of like be the father that I kind of always wanted, to have the opportunity to experience that. And maybe things that I wanted from my dad, I was able to like give him. And so like he was part of my purpose. And I look at like where I'm at now 4 years ago, and it's like our kids, somehow they're here to teach us something.
Definitely.
It's not just like it's our kids. Like our kids are playing some role in our own evolution.
Like they chose us just as much as we chose
Yeah.
them. And it's interesting you say that like you're like Kobe is healing you. It's like I think for both of us and the parallels in our lives, like we've talked about this since our first date at that little taco place. We never went back there. We got to go back there.
Jersey City.
Yeah. From that day, and we saw these parallels, it's been really weird. What we touched on even then was the trauma in our childhood. And I feel like both of us were not lacking in the sense of lack, but our experience as children, we did not really get to be children, right?
Yeah.
In some aspects. Like there were elements where we had to take care of ourselves and grow up fast. And I think that having children helps us go back there. And what they say really is true, like living through the eyes of your children, like experiencing their laughter and their play and their desire to just have fun all the time is such a blessing to experience and witness that you cannot understand until you go through it. Like seeing the joy of your child experiencing something, also seeing their pain and sometimes needing to be harsh. Like I don't want to say harsh, but stern and firm.
Agreed.
Like last night. Like it's very hard for me to like follow through with like extreme punishment. Like Kobe last night, what did he do? Punch Kaya in the face. I've never seen Chris angrier than when Kobe hits his little sister. And Kaya sprayed Kobe with the hose, which is funny. But Kobe was pissed and he punched Kaya in the face. Then, of course, she's crying like a little victim, like she didn't do anything. Chris goes out and yells at him. I drag him to his bedroom. But it's like when you could see they're sorry, it's like hard to like hold.
Yeah.
But like it's also really important that holding firm and following through, because if you don't teach your children discipline, and in the Bible constantly talks about discipline your children, right? Not necessarily beat them, but if you don't, life will.
Yeah.
Like if he goes around punching people in the face, he's going to get shot. Right? Like, he's gonna punch the wrong person in the face. So we have to teach him that punching in the face is not okay, ever. Like, don't.
Agreed.
And I did say to him, I was like, you don't punch Kaya in the face, but if somebody ever hits Kaya, you don't want to hurt your little sister. But if somebody else tries to hurt her, you could hurt them. Was that a right lesson? I don't know if it got through to him.
I think it's okay for now.
Trying to teach him that, like, okay, there are appropriate times maybe to punch somebody in the face, but like punching your sister is never an appropriate time.
I know.
Right? So that's been an interesting, like, discipline has been very interesting for children as well.
Yeah. I think, it's when I look at when our kids, it is almost like sometimes reliving moments of my childhood, but from a different perspective.
Right. It's like flashbacks. Like, oh my God, I remember being in this position.
And I think it's also important for us to know like the dynamics of what it is to be a parent. Like our children are picking up on everything that we do. Obviously from ages 0 to 7, they're in theta state. So anything that's happening in their environment, they're just naturally picking up automatically. So I think we need to be more aware, and we've been able to see it with definitely Kobe, but like him mimicking some of our responses and what we say and all that and those things. So it's very important that the family or the parents are aware that the energy that they're giving off is the same energy that the kids are picking up on.
Right.
And is being instilled in their continuous habits.
Right. So the real energy, and this is like what we really want to touch on today, is the connection between each other.
Yeah.
And how that transfers. Like not only, especially like having the businesses as well, it's not only how it transfers into our home, but how it seeps out, right? So like how we interact with each other, how we treat each other, how we communicate will not only affect us, that directly affects our children, that directly affects their relationships at school, how we communicate with each other directly affects the team at work, that affects the clients, right? Everything is a ripple effect. So what is the only thing you can truly change ever?
Yourself.
That's it. It's not about me trying to go teach a team member how to work with somebody else, right? It's about me learning how to work better with that team member, which really starts, how do I work better with you? So what do you think works or doesn't work in our community? Let's just go real raw. What works or doesn't work in our communication style and how we deal with real life? Like, for example, we moved to Hackettstown. We moved far away from the gyms, and I really wanted us home every day at 6 o'clock to eat dinner as a family. That's not really been happening consistently. You've been better, but like I also made it like a harsh point. I was like, okay, something has got to give, because I'm feeling like we work all day, we're rushing with the kids, they're getting to bed so late. They're going to bed at like 9, 9:30, 10, which was never on my list of, oh my God, like old me would be having a panic attack. Like it was like 7:30 on the dot. Now I'm much more lax, and it feels better, to be honest, to be like, but it's also more exhausting when you don't have that strict regimen. But I got really upset, like this needs to give. And I think that I communicated it pretty fairly. Like I probably had a hissy fit, but I was like, look, this is what we said when we moved far. We'd have dinner at 6. We'd spend more time together as a family on weekends. You've also been working on weekends. So when things are not what we said, right? We said this is going to be this way, and we need to communicate that. What has been working and what has not been working in communication?
Oh, what do you mean? Like, I don't...
Like, I flipped out a couple times. Like, this is not working. I'm so done with this. I'm over it. Let's sell the house.
Yeah, it's what you do.
Right? I'm a runner. I just throw my hands in the air. I flip tables, throw the Monopoly board when I'm losing. Right? Screw this game. Doesn't exist anyway, right? So I'm not that extreme. I do have a conversation with you. Fair. I also give messages here and there. Every night, hey, you gonna be home? Nope. Hey, you gonna be home? Nope. So it's not like I'm
but
out
that's
of the
not
blue.
true. That's not
I'm
true.
not out of the blue.
And you're very extreme. There's often times that I am home on time. I pick up the kids 3 days a week. Out of the 5 days that they're in daycare, I pick up the kids, right? Then there's a couple days that you work late that you're not home. So you like to project out all of the things that you feel on somebody else, when in fact there's moments in time when you're not upholding those things on your end. So yeah, I might not be home all the time at exactly 6 o'clock on the dot. I often am getting home extremely late. I also take the kids to school in the morning. There's a lot that goes on.
Why do you do that stuff?
Hold on a sec.
Why do you have to take them and pick them up?
Why do I? What do you mean, why do I? Because they go to daycare.
Because I have to work.
So are you saying that you don't want to have to work? Let's make it clear for everybody. Is that what you want? Is that your expectation in life, is that you don't want to work?
I'm not talking about working. I'm talking about going to the facilities.
Well, first let's finish this.
Which has been a real
So do you not want to work? Let's go back since you brought it up.
Do you think that you're speaking nicely right now?
Is that something that you know? Because I want the truth to make it nice and easy.
You don't need to speak nicely when you need it.
I'm
this
just
is
saying.
Kind of how our conversations go.
I'm just being honest.
Fired up, right?
I do get fired up.
So I love what I do. I have a passion. It's my purpose to help guide, teach, and relate to people in terms of helping their body, becoming more in tune with their bodies, listening to their intuition. Because on my journey, that has helped me. So I like helping people do that. So having 2 facilities really far away has been very tough. And gyms are volatile. It's up and down with the clients and always a problem. Something's always changing. They're not happy with something. I will say we also have amazing clients at IBD. We have amazing people here that have our backs as people, but as a business, it's just really good people here. But it's a lot of the time. So living far away and saying when we live far away, this is kind of how I want my life to be. And then having to teach early mornings, which I've never wanted to do, especially with kids. It's just nobody else was there to do it. Late nights, nobody else was there to do it. Now I made a real intention of going in and saying, okay, stop projecting, Chastity. Find people. Stop saying you have to do this. Stop saying you have to do this, because the more I say, I have to work, I have to go, and I have to do this, I kind of let go. What did I do?
What did you do?
I was like, I let go. 2 people right away, bam, came in, wanted to learn Pilates, trained them to be Pilates instructors, and now we have 2 new Pilates instructors. Phenomenal, really good Pilates instructors. And they're taking over the classes that I was teaching, right?
Yeah.
And that's happening. But I needed to ask for help first. I needed to ask the universe. I had to stop saying, I need to do this. So then I get to really pursue my passion and purpose, which is like going through pregnancy, going through natural births, living this holistic lifestyle. I realized how hard it was to get to the information, how difficult it was, like a road to get to what I needed to know about birth, which is like so intuitive, but you can't know that when people are constantly telling you it's out here. This man is supposed to do this. This woman's supposed to do this. It's like taking a poop. It's so natural giving birth. But we're taught that there's something wrong with you, and there's this whole medical thing, and all these things can go wrong, and you're just like obsessed with everything going wrong, that like you lean on. So I was like, you know what? Why don't you help people, Chastity? So I really feel like I'm like following my passion now, and I'm like creating a pregnancy program, doing all this stuff, and I'm like, ooh, this is fun. I like this. This is getting me fired up. I can stay up late to do this. But I had to allow help. I had to allow help and say I actually wanted help, and I had to get clear on what I wanted. And what I realized I wanted was to be at home more.
Okay.
To have you at home more. And in order to do that, I needed to have things in place in my own life, right? Like you said, stop projecting. So keep going, sir.
Yeah, I don't remember where we were.
Because you were so angry.
No, it's just a story in there.
I said, we were talking about communication, though.
Yeah, I feel like if you, to be 100% honest,
100.
I feel like you have your feelings towards what you want. And if that doesn't happen,
Yes.
there's no space. So I have to be the buffer.
The buffer of what?
Of my own space, right? So it's like, all right, well, she's not listening to me right now, so that's okay. I'm gonna be where I need to be at this moment in time, and I'm gonna offer you space, because often I know the things that you say to me have nothing to do with me. There's things that you feel internally that I think come my way. And so I listen to those things, and I listen deeply to them, and I try to understand where they're coming from, and I keep on growing with you. Because I think what you say often tells me a lot more about how you feel in many ways.
Yes. So it's funny you say that, because I think one of the most important things that I do, one of the most important things, like truly in my relationship with you as my partner, and really truly wanting a present partner, a supportive partner, a loyal partner, a healthy partner. And when I start spiraling down and complaining about all the things you don't do, I have to check myself. And I have to first start with gratitude for firstly having a partner, having a loving partner, having a great father as a partner, having a partner that does support, not only like physically, but also emotionally and mentally. I have to think of all the things I'm grateful for first, and then think about all the things I really want from you. So it's like anything else in expansion and law of attraction. If I'm focused constantly on how angry you get, how frustrated, I will keep recreating that. Every time I have a conversation with you, I am going to have a conversation in my head first about how you're going to react. And then you're just going to show me exactly what I think. Mm-hmm. Because I'm already out putting that radio signal, right? I'm putting the signal out saying, I need you to react this way because I need to prove myself right. Ultimately, as humans, we want to prove ourselves right. That's our goal. That's our life goal. We're just here to prove ourselves right, which is the law of attraction.
I actually think, I don't mean to interrupt,
No, go.
But I actually think that might be 80 to 90% of all the issues, and how many issues in relationships would go away if you just didn't need to prove yourself right.
Absolutely.
Right? Because I understand, like, when I'm speaking with you, if I'm coming from a place of openness and listening to you, there's no problem. But the moment that I need you to hear what I'm saying and understand and agree with me, it's just suffering. It's just like an internal suffering. And so if we're going to communicate, if we can, in general, I believe, if people just communicated openly in a level of presence without needing to prove a point, that so much of the drama will go away.
We also have to go through what we go through, right?
Agreed.
Like even in the beginning of this, when we're going back and forth, it's like we have to allow room for the disagreement.
Of course.
Because when we have those opposing
Did you say
views,
disagreement?
we have to.
Not an argument? You never say disagreement. You always say, why are you arguing with me?
Do you want to be right now, or do you want to communicate?
I'm just observing. I'm just observing. It's a shift.
So we always have this argument about
Disagreement.
if we argued or not. I'm like, it was an argument. If we're going back and forth, it's an argument. He's like, no, we don't argue. We disagree. I'm like, well, we were arguing. It could be a nice argument. You can argue nicely. You don't have to be angry, but like if you like back and forth. Back and forth to me means arguing.
Okay. I'm going to offer space for this.
What are you? And agreeing to disagree can end an argument. Like, okay, so we disagree on this, right? But all in all, I feel like that is the biggest thing for like our communication, and just it always goes back to self. How am I perceiving my partner right now? Is this the partner that I want to perceive? And do I have the ability and the desire to perceive you in a way that is loving, kind, and something that I want? Because if I keep painting a monster of my partner, I will keep getting that. If I go to all my girlfriends and tell them how crazy Chris Jones is and how annoying he is and how he never does anything, that's the partner I'm going to live with. Is that the partner that I want? It always goes back to this. I don't know what book I read, but I read a book, and he literally said, every time before you have a conversation with somebody, you're having a conversation in your head already. Start paying attention to what that conversation looks like in your head before you have the conversation with the person. And if you don't like the conversation in your head, change the responses.
Neville Goddard, maybe?
It might be Neville Goddard. Definitely Neville Goddard. Change the responses in your head that they're going to reply to you with. Start making them more loving conversations. Start making them happier. Start making them more joyful. And then approach the person. And if you are not in that space, then you're not going to get the desired outcome. Because then what will happen is you will get your desired outcome because you don't realize that your desire is to actually be right. And that your partner
At all costs.
is shitty. Right, exactly.
At all costs. Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes we get stuck in that negative loop. And this all extends into your family. This extends into your businesses. This extends into life, relationships.
So bottom line is there's way too much information to talk about in one episode.
Yeah,
So
cool.
we haven't even begun to talk about the dynamics and the growth that we've experienced together and the space that we've been able to give each other. But we've gone through some rough times. And even now, there's waves. But I think the way that we look at the waves are way different.
Yeah.
Which makes them not as turbulent.
Yeah.
And actually just a space for growth and wisdom and knowledge, and taking the most from those experiences. So we will have to obviously come back for another episode to share a lot more of really our truth on how we work together as partners.
And I think you'll understand all of these conversations more when you go back to like episode 1 and you follow this journey so follow us on Instagram, watch our shorts, follow us on YouTube, the Breaking Chains podcast. Make sure you like it and subscribe to it. Comment, tell us what you want to hear, tell us what you don't want to hear. And just follow this journey. And I promise you there will be gems in here because it's a journey and we got your back.
I truly want to say one last thing. And that is this. I truly believe in the nuclear family. I believe that it's such a powerful statement in our world. And
Nuclear family. Let's talk about that in episode 5.
yeah, the nuclear family,
Let's
just
do it.
just a close-knit family, whatever that
Yeah.
looks like. But I wanted to say
Important.
there was a quote from Tony Robbins that I heard a long time ago. And he said something like, you have to change you. And he says, you don't think like changing your partner and just like going to somebody else, you're just going to attract the same thing.
Right.
Right? So like use every opportunity you have now to change you,
Right.
because you have to understand that it's coming from you. And once you change you, your whole world around you changes.
Yeah.
You know, some people, and hey, to each their own, you bounce around from person to person to person. If that's what you like, that's your thing. But you're only going to attract the same thing that you are.
It's all energetic
You know,
vibration.
so
Same radio station.
stay aware, stay awake,
Oh yeah, you
and
can
observe.
follow us on Spotify too. We're on Spotify, TikTok, the Breaking Chains podcast.
We everywhere.
Love you people. Peace.
Love you. Later.